that has organized for this training. So he's a key person as part of the panelists of the day. We also have, within the panelists, we have Sylvia Wanjiru, who is also an accountant with Kenya Private School Association and part of the examinations committee that has organized for this training. We also have Mr. Godfrey Mwema, who is the regional representative for Kenya Private Schools in Nairobi region. Nairobi region comprises of Nairobi County, Machakos, Nairobi County, Kiambu County, and Kajiado County. He is the one that is responsible. At the same time, he is the one that mans our IT connectivity, issues of connectivity, issues of creation of links, and all that. And he's working within the background to ensure that this session flows smoothly without disruptions of network and such like issues. So he's a key panelist with us this day. Karibu sana, Mr. Godfrey. We also have another Mr. Geoffrey Lijodi. Mr. Geoffrey Lijodi is the National Sales Marketing Manager, Moran Publishers. KPSA works very closely with Moran. They've been very good partners, and we'll give him a session at some point, maybe. Allow me also to introduce the key or the lead facilitator of the day, Mr. Edwin Lumalas. I can see he has put on his video. You can see Mr. Lumalas is there. Mr. Lumalas is a classroom teacher who has got a vast experience of over 17 years in active classroom interaction. Mr. Lumalas, Edwin, is also a curriculum developer. He actively participates in development of curriculum, including CBC. And it is for this reason that he's here with us to tell us more about CBC implementation, especially at the levels of grade 1 to grade 3. Mr. Lumalas also has participated actively in resource development at KICD. That is development of resources that are to be used at grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, and of course subsequent grades. With KICD, we are all aware that KICD is the mandated body here in Kenya to develop curriculum, but of course they have to work closely with other people that help in terms of other developing resource materials that will be used now for the actual implementation of the curriculum. Mr. Lumalas, Edwin, is also a facilitator. He has participated in several forums, doing facilitations on issues of CBC implementation, as well as issues of other motivational kind of facilitation. So he's a key person that you can also invite in your schools to shed more light on issues of CBC. Mr. Edwin Lumalas is also an author. Of course, when his time comes, we'll give him time to tell us the books that he has authored and via which publisher. Maybe he can give reference one or two of such like the books that he has authored, so that we get to know, even as we use his books, we can directly engage with somebody that we have heard from. So karibu sana, Mr. Edwin, for this session. Now, why are we here today? A brief of why we are here today. This particular forum, as I indicated earlier, has been organized by Kenya Private School Association. At Kenya Private School Association, for those who may not be aware, this is the umbrella body of all private schools. And it's normally the umbrella that acts as one voice that advocates for all private schools across the country. Now, at Kenya Private School Association, A school only joins Kenya Private School Association after you've met the minimum registration requirements by the Ministry of Education. We don't have as members schools that are not yet registered by the Ministry of Education. So a school has to register with the Ministry of Education so that you meet the legal requirements by the government. Then is when you can apply for registration to become a member of Kenya Private School Association. That means that we don't encourage registration or membership of illegal entities, because before the school is registered by the government, it is termed as illegal. It's operating illegally. So we don't have membership of illegal entities. We only have schools that have registered by the ministry. Now, part of the mandate, of course, Kenya Private School Association does so many things on behalf of private schools, but part of what we do as an association is what is called capacity building. We organize for several meetings for capacity building for different categories of people. We organize for such forum for capacity building for directors. We organize capacity building for managers and administrators of schools. We also organize for capacity building sessions for teaching staff like the one that we have today. We also organize for capacity building for non-teaching staff, those that are not directly involved in teaching, but they help in one way or another in the school system. People like the drivers, the cooks, the watchmen, and the accountants, all personnel that work within the school setup. So we organize for them, for various cadre of groups, different kind of tailor-made capacity building programs. So for this particular session, this is a capacity building session organized specifically for teachers of grade 1, grade 2, and grade 3. We've had similar sessions from last week. On Monday last week, we had a session like this for teachers of mathematics on Monday. On Tuesday last week, we had a session like this with the teachers of English. On Wednesday was a holiday, so on Thursday, we had a session like this with the teachers of science. On Friday last week, we had a session like this with the teachers of social studies. Then on Saturday last week, we had a session like this with the teachers that teach Kiswahili. Then come this week, Monday yesterday, we had a similar session like the one we are going to have this day, but it was specifically for teachers of PP1 and PP2. There's a lot that they learned. So today we have this session of teachers of grade 1, grade 2, and grade 3, as I've said, and we'll finish tomorrow by organizing for a similar session, but for teachers of grade 4 and grade 5. So if you look at that kind of an organization, we've taken care of all our teachers, ranging from PP1 all through to class 8, and we've taken the initiative to take them through this kind of a training. Of course, it is a kind of a brainstorming kind of a session whereby teachers that handle students of the same level come together to share ideas. Just like it is said that an iron sharpens an iron, in the same way, we learn from one another, because you realize that we are gifted differently, and the environments that we work in are also different. And again, specifically at this time that we live or that we work, you are all aware that the issue of CBC and the implementation of CBC has brought a lot of debate. Part of the debate is a good number of people are arguing or raising concerns from the point of ignorance. We are all aware that the majority of teachers that are teaching today never went through this system of CBC. It is an entirely new system, and therefore, the training that we went through did not take care of CBC in mind. By then, it was mostly 844. So when CBC was rolled out, of course, the government has taken the initiative to be training teachers, but you will all agree with me that some of the trainings in some areas have not been very effective. In some places, even the people that are training themselves, they also have areas that they are still considering as gray areas. It is for this reason that we felt as an association, as Kenya Private School Association, to get personnel that have worked and have helped in the development of this curriculum to come and shed light to our teachers on exactly what it entails, how it should be implemented, and what are some of the improvised resources that we can use within the environments that we are operating from. Because the issue of improvisation and also resource materials has also been a big issue, especially with parents. Some parents feel CBC is very expensive, and it is unfortunate and sad to say that some of our teachers also as well, because of lack of proper interpretation of what is contained in the designs, have also like burdened pupils and have burdened parents. Every day parents are told to go and do this for your child, get compost manure from somewhere, go and get a sack. So it has brought a lot of complications. But as we get along, KPSA felt through the leadership that we need to put things right so that as we take our time on a day-to-day basis to implement CBC in the classroom, we get it right and we run with it as we normally do in the private sector. It is for such reasons that KPSA has organized for this. At this point, I feel I want to also mention that Kenya Private Schools Association organizes for examinations and assessments. Specifically for CBC, we organize for assessments. And these assessments, every term, we have two forms of assessments and examinations. We normally have midterm exams and end-term exams. In the KPSA examinations and assessments, for the CBC classes, grade 1, PP1, all through to grade 6, grade 5, we go, or the setting pattern takes the shape of what is required by Kenya National Examinations Council. Maybe our lead facilitator of the day will also shed some light on testing, because there's also been a bit of some confusion when it comes to testing. At what point should we assess our students? Because CBC has come up with some two forms of assessments in the name of summative assessments and formative assessments. It is at what point should we be assessing our students and on what kind of activity? Is there a time limit within which we are supposed now to stop assessing, or we should assess at all times? So I hope that in the course of the presentation of the facilitator, he's going to shed light on the area of assessments. What are some of the assessment tools that we are supposed to have as teachers of grade 1, grade 2, and grade 3? What form of remarks should we give in terms of, because the 844 system, we used to give marks in terms of percentages. Now, what of the CBC? Do we still continue giving percentages? Then what kind of feedback should we give to parents? And what should be the parental involvement when it comes to the implementation of CBC in grade 1, grade 2, and grade 3? So such are some of the issues that are going to be discussed during this session, so that at the end of the session, we will be very much aware of exactly what is required and what is not required. Now, you are attending this session via a Zoom webinar. A Zoom webinar only allows you most of the time to listen. But that does not mean you are completely locked out from answering or asking questions, or even maybe airing your concerns, maybe a question, a suggestion, or maybe an input, an addition onto what has already been said. So if you look at the bottom of the device that you are using, you will see there are certain icons. There are certain icons. There is the chat column. When you click the chat column, it gives you provision to write You can write a question, you can write a comment, you can write a suggestion of what you may want us to do during the time that we will be facilitating. So that is something you are accessible to. There's also the column for question and answer. You can also ask questions within that point. But now after the facilitator will have taken us through his facilitation, we will give room for verbal questioning where we allow you now to talk. So at that point, after he'll have finished, there's a column that there's an icon that is for raising hand. It's written raise hand. You'll click on it, then we will see your hand raised. And then from this end, we will allow you now to talk. And then you'll unmute. If we call your name, you'll unmute. And then you ask your questions directly to the facilitator. Otherwise, that is the brief that I have for now, because the session, we want to give much time for the facilitator to take us through his session. Allow me to introduce you, Mr. Edwin Alumalas, who is going to take us through his presentation. Mr. Edwin, you can put on your video. Thank you. Now, before you take it up, Mr. Edwin, I want to remind the participants that we are also live on YouTube. If you can access us on YouTube, Kenya Private School Association, you can also subscribe to the YouTube channel so that you can follow us up from there, because sometimes you find the devices, some of the devices we use through this column sometimes brings issues. So you can follow us on YouTube as well. You can even remind some of the people that will be calling you, I'm unable to join the meeting, how can I access? You can tell them they can as well follow the proceedings through YouTube. Otherwise, welcome Mr. Edwin Lumalas. Kindly take over. Thank you. Ashford, kindly mute your mute. You are causing disruption, Mr. Ashford.
There's a bit of interference. Okay.
Mr. Lumalas, you can take over.
Thank you. Are you able to get me clearly?
Yes, but the voice is still. You can raise the volume of your device.
And for you,
yeah, now I can hear
okay
you.
Now?
Yeah, it's a bit
okay,
better. Yeah? Yes.
It's okay.
So go ahead.
Okay. Thank you so much. The directors are present, my colleagues and the KPSA team. I appreciate to be given this opportunity at least to share with the facilitators on the core issues that we need to focus on as we help the Kenyan child go through the competence-based curriculum. For today, I will just take you through the expectation of curriculum framework, a bit of it. Then I move to the assessment and the role of the teacher when it comes to assessment. Then I'll have a reflection of the kind of assessments we do give from KPSA end. And lastly, I'll talk about the relevant resources that you as a teacher, you are required to have. When we talk of competence-based curriculum, I know there has been quite a lot of issues. There's been quite a lot of miscommunication, and that's why majority of the schools maybe up to now haven't embraced exactly what is supposed to be done. When we talk of competence-based curriculum, our main focus is about sustainability on development goals. How are we going to focus on improving our 2030 mission and vision? We are talking about the 21st century skills. The learner we want for now is different from the learner who was when Lumalas was in school. So what kind of 21st century skills should we impact in our learners? And that's where we should focus on. Now, Allow me to mention something on our vision, where we have the engaged, empowered, and ethical. As a teacher, as a facilitator, as a director, you have to ask yourself, what kind of a child do I want to produce? What kind of a child will the society wish to embrace? So as we come to bring these kids on board in terms of competence-based curriculum, we need to ask ourselves actually hard questions. Which kind of a learner do we want? How are we going to engage them? How are we going to empower them? How are we going to promote issues to do with ethics? And then apart from that one, we need to ask ourselves about our mission, because the mission of education will directly impact on the kind of assessment we shall give to our learners. One thing you need to know is that when we have our mission in place, that is nurturing every learner's potential, we'll have to focus on purpose of education. And you see, the purpose of education basically is to identify every learner's potential and nurture it. As I said earlier, 21st century is not about acquisition of knowledge, but it's about application of knowledge and making good use of the skills we've actually gained in the learning process. Now, allow me to mention something because we can't assess if you don't understand deep end on pillars of education. We do have 3 key pillars of education, and that is the values, principles of basic curriculum framework, and then we have lastly theoretical approach. All this will have an impact in life to this child. All this will influence on how we are going to actually assess the learner in class. So when you talk of the pillars, allow me to just mention something on principles. In a competence-based curriculum situation, you have to understand as a facilitator, when you walk to a class, there is diversity in terms of the learners you're going to handle. So the learners we're having currently have got different learning styles. And we have to consider and we have to also focus on this learning style so that we can be able to actually address the need of each individual learner. So diversity is so critical here as we engage them in the daily learning process. How are we ensuring we are catering for all learners' different needs? And this one will affect us on the kind of assessment we give to the learners. That's why when I come to the part of assessment, you realize that, yes, I'll talk about the formative assessment. I will mention about the summative assessment. And under formative, there is quite a number of activities our learners, we shall actually engage them in. And this is for the purpose of ensuring we work together with all the learners with their diverse situation. Apart from diversity, there is something to do with parental engagement and empowerment. We cannot assess what we don't understand. We cannot assess what the consumer, who is one of them is the parent, does not understand what you are assessing or what you are doing. So it is always important to actually bring the parents on board, share with them the mission of the current education system we are having, share with them their expectation and their roles, and apart from that one, involve them in technical decision making as an institution. This one will help us at least reduce most of the challenges that we've been facing with them, because you have realized over the media and other situations, parents have been crying that we are overburdening them. But if we come down and make them understand the expectation of competence-based curriculum and what their role is, at least we shall work together and we shall be able to assess our learners effectively. I know there is a big change between how we were assessing in terms of 844 and the current competence-based curriculum. The grading system has changed a bit, but not all that 100%. What I can say is that you need to inform the parents of the different levels of assessment and how we give out recommendation as per their performance. So when you talk of parental engagement, as a facilitator, the first and foremost point you need to take understand what is all about the design, take time and look at the resources that are required. Ask yourself as a school, as an individual, which resources am I going to improvise? Which resources am I going to get support from the school? And then which resources are the parents going to support so that they feel part and parcel of the team? What I can say, a good facilitator, 75% of the resources you use should either be improvised or developed by you in your learning institution. And then you have just some small 15% to be supported by the parent and another 15% to be supported by the director. But when you find over 50% of the resources you're using are directed to the parent, then there's something wrong there. And that's why I say you need to really understand all that it entails with the competence-based curriculum. Take time and understand the design. It's so unfortunate, like right now, people have gone to the extent of assessment, yet they have never taken time to read what we call the essence statement. Yesterday, you had something to do with the training for PP1 and PP2. Personally, I've taken time to walk to many schools, and I've realized that the only focus given there is on English, and they're forgetting Kiswahili. Yet when you go to the essence statement, you've just been clearly told learners should be exposed to activities that will help them develop skills or just that readiness towards language acquisition. And when they say language acquisition, they have not specified English. So as a team, also in upper, when we come to PP grade 1, 2, and 3, go back to the essence statement. Read through the essence statement and find out what is it telling us? What am I expected at the end of grade 3? Which kind of a learner should I produce? What are the targets? In terms of numerical numbers, in terms of shapes, in terms of artwork, in terms of music, and all the other learning areas. So apart from the principles, allow me to talk about also values. We cannot focus more on assessment not unless we impact the positive values to our learners. And these values should not only be addressed in class. Later on, I'll be able to share with you that even in the kind of assessments we give to the learners, values must be inculcated in it. Like, I'll give an example. You can give a mathematical test or a test item. You can set a question like, maybe a boy or a girl went to a shop to buy milk. The mother sent her to buy maybe half a liter or 1 liter. But the shopkeeper made a mistake and bought and gave her 2 liters of milk. And then you'll ask, as a child, if it is Hassan, what should Hassan do? So that you see if the children can be able to reflect on what they learned about in terms of integrity. So when you talk of values, Kenya Curriculum Development decided to actually select on 8 values. And these 8 values, sorry for that, that is love, responsibility, respect, unity, patriotism, social justice, integrity, and peace, should not only be focused during the learning process, but as we are teaching our learners, we should know one day, one time, I'll have to come up with a task that will able to prove to me that actually this child has been taken through positive values. So when we enter into class as a facilitator, what values are you calculating and how are you going to test that? CBC is more of practical activities, and you'll find that a subject at a learning area like environmental activities or hygiene, where they'll be involved in maybe coming up with a kitchen garden, or home science, where they'll be expected maybe to clean utensils at home. Part of the value like responsibility, you'll have to test and see. How are they working out after they're finished? How are they clearing the working area? And how are they ending up with the task you gave them? This one will help guide you in terms of values, because a child can get to grade 6 and a question might be asked, what was the importance of clearing your working area? Or what was the importance of using maybe lesser materials that we are using like soap to clean the utensils? They need to understand when I use lesser material, there's element of financial literacy. When I clear the working area and I store my materials that I was using safely, I reduce on reduction, on destruction, and apart from that one for future use, and to make these items last for long. These are small, basic things that we should inculcate in the learners in day-to-day activity, because later on, we shall test them. I've walked around several schools when there's a practical activity, and you find Mwalimu just says, it is time to clean, or it's time to cook, do it faster before the bell rings. You're not supervising, you're not having a checklist to find out what the kids are doing, and I find that's a bit unfortunate. So values should be part and parcel of the end product when you're coming to assessment. This is part of the basic framework of curriculum. Apart from that one, we have theoretical approaches. Now, the theories that were selected by Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, they had a reason to it. As a facilitator, can you focus on these theories? It will help you understand which is the best time for this child maybe to acquire this skill. Which is the best time for this child maybe to focus on numerical sums and shape. So age, as the kids develop, there's some activities that you need to impart to them so that they don't lose out. Like I always say, I always see some schools, a child maybe in PP1, they'll take time with the whole newspaper and they'll be cutting into smaller pieces. To me, one day I thought, maybe, what are they joking? Why are they wasting time with this? But I came to realize when they do this small kind of activity, the motor skills is being developed. At the end of the day, these kids will have patience. At the end of the day, these kids, they'll improve in their handwriting. So as we are helping the kids, go back to the theories that were given, look at them. It will help guide you on the needs of these children with the different age or level you're handling. Apart from that one, like the gardener's theory, it focuses also on that child who is maybe out of the others. This is a kid we need to focus on, because in your class, you might find we have the sharp children, but we have children who are challenged. So go back to gardener's theory and find out more. What is it telling us? How can I use this information as a facilitator to assist the child in class? So I wouldn't want where you just come in, maybe you've carried your textbook, you enter class, you are teaching, instead of facilitating the acquisition of knowledge and skill, at the end of the day, you are giving them questions which do not add value in their life. So during assessment, have a deliberate inclusion of test items that promote values to assess their level of achievement. And apart from that one, to be able to know if your children have lost out in values so that you can assist them in life. Now, the points you need to note, we can talk a lot about CBC and effectiveness of the teacher. But unless you come down and focus on change management, we might be wasting time. When I talk of change management, you realize we have a short time. Our calendar has been squeezed. There's quite a lot of activities to undertake this term. And there's quite a lot also that we'll have to do come next term. Like you find, NEC has already issued the calendar for grade 3 learners and also the project for grade 4 and 5. This one will start this term, and maybe by the end of next term, around January, we shall be testing the children. So when I talk of change in management, you need to change your working style. Currently, a teacher will be safe in terms of competence-based curriculum, must be able to strive or you should aspire to actually complete the design which you used to call syllabus at least by 15th or 20th of January, so that you can have time now to prepare these learners in terms of revision before we expose them to the end of term 3 assessment. So when I talk of change of management, you need to plan as a school, you need to plan as also KPSA, I think they've already given their timetable. You need to know when are we doing the mid-exam, when are we doing the end exam, what activities are we going to engage the learners between this period. Go through the design. How many learning outcomes am I having? How many substance am I supposed to cover either this term or next term? When you take time to analyze, you realize you do not have time. And there's no time to waste. In fact, you need to create more time. There are some of the teachers who are saying, facilitators who are saying, when CBC started, that CBC is shallow. But when you go deeper with the practicals, you realize we need to give our learners more time so that they can cover. So I was saying, for effectiveness, number one, change your management. The time you engage the learners, how you test your learners, how you involve the parents, and how you manage the resources in class. You have to change your management. You have to have a turnaround issue. Apart from that one is attitude management. I cannot come and say I'm assessing my children, I'm doing what, and I'm talking negatively about this CBC or about the learning area we've been given. So our learners will be happier, our learners will enjoy if they are handled with somebody who has positive attitude towards what they're doing. So we need to work on our attitude as facilitators and embrace the new system that has come on board. Because I know some of us are going to be taken by shock when the grade 6 come next year around November, towards end of November, when they'll be tested. Some of us will be taken by shock. And why I'm saying that one, the people setting these test items will sit with the design from grade 1 up to grade 6. And they'll know children have been taken through this learning process. And a question will come from nowhere, from anywhere, and be prepared for that. Apart from that one, as a teacher, for you to be effective, I felt I need to talk about this before I move to assessment. There's the issue of pedagogy. Which kind of approach are you using? I know there are some of us who have said I've been teaching mathematics for the last 20 years, and this is how we do things. It's a high time you need to change. The learning style for the kid for today is different from how Lumalas was in school those days back. Those were the days, long were the days when I'll just sit there, listen to the teacher, and yes, sir, and we move. But then the kind of a learner we are having today, some of them within 20 minutes, they're already bored. They need something else. We need to engage them in a different way. So as you walk to class, I mentioned something earlier about diversity. The learners we have in our classes have different learning style. My tone, I need to consider that. The learning resources need to be relevant and attractive. Learning resources that will engage these learners fully. And then the methodology I use. Like what Mr. Maras is doing now is more of lecture, which is not proper in a learning situation. So we need to focus. As a facilitator, you'll have your design, check through the design, look at the learning outcomes and talk about it later, and then the learning experiences. You know your learners better than myself. So I'll not come here and tell you this is the best method to use. But as a facilitator, with the unique environment where you are, you'll be able to know the best approach you'll use to assist your learner, and eventually be able also to design an appropriate assessment to use that is to your learners. Then lastly, we need to also embrace digital literacy because the world is changing. We are moving towards that direction. Initially, we could be crowded somewhere and we talk about CBC, but right now, this is the direction we've taken. So as a facilitator, try as much as possible to involve our learners towards digital literacy as a means of driving the concept home so that these learners can be relevant in the future days. Now, having said that, you'll ask yourself, what is assessment? What is assessment? Everyone has been talking about assessment. But if you don't understand what assessment is, we shall get it wrong. Actually, assessment is a systematic process of gathering information from different sources to be able to establish what the learner knows, understands, and can be able to do. When you talk of assessment, it's not just about giving learners written tasks, but I've said it's a systematic process where we gather information about this learner from several sources. And that's why for today, I'll love to mention 2 items. There is this formative assessment, which is an assessment that addresses, it's a continuous process during the learning. And when you walk into a class as a facilitator, you should know you've started the assessment. As you greet these learners, you are assessing them. As you ask questions of what they did in the previous maybe class or the previous lesson or the previous day, that's a pre-assessment, which is quite critical. You'll be able to know who or how your learners are so that you know where to pick from. So a process of determining capability of the learners, that is to apply a set of related knowledge and skills together with values. That's what you call assessment. You have to see the knowledge they have, the skills they have acquired, the values they have, and the attitudinal change. Can we bring it together and assess this learner? That's why in grade 1, 2, and 3, at the end of grade 3, we shall have a NEC assessment for the grade 3 learners. And I've said, I think the timetable is ready, it's out. The circular is already there. We won't have time, because of time, I won't go to details, but I believe we can access it, we can share together in the forum, and we'll have it. But this kind of assessment, you'll find we have areas where there is written tasks, and we have areas where there is integrated learning area, where this one mainly is directed towards the portfolio. Now, when you come to this assessment, before you walk to class and assess the learner, ask yourself, who am I assessing? Why am I assessing? When am I assessing? I believe Bwana George had asked me to talk about when to assess. Ask yourself, when am I assessing? Then, whom am I supposed to give the feedback to? When you ask yourself those questions, at least you'll be able to know the direction to take. Why am I saying this? Who is that learner you have in class? What is their level? What is their ability? How much have they covered in terms of concepts? I always at times feel a bit disturbed when you find a teacher struggling to give learners an assessment of work that is term 3's work. Just to prove that you are tough, you can set heavy things. That's why I'm asking, whom are you assessing? And then next, why are you assessing? There's both formative and summative assessment. Why are we bringing all this on board? Then when are we assessing? That one I'll mention it just now. And then whom will you give this feedback to? If you're aware, you need to give the feedback number 1 to the child. The child needs to understand, this is the task I've done, and this is the feedback. You're good to go. But it's unfortunate currently you'll find that you've given a task, and then you've written there exceeding expectation. This is a grade 1 child. Umemwandikia exceeding expectation. He can't spell or she can't spell the word exceed. Doesn't even know the meaning of exceed. That's why I'm asking, who are you assessing? And how are you giving feedback? Apart from that one, another consumer of your feedback is the parent. What kind of feedback are you going to give? And then lastly, it's to the administration. You as a teacher may understand, but which kind of feedback are you giving that is to the administration? When we consider this one, we shall know the direction actually to take. Now, when it comes to assessment, I've told you there is quite a lot in assessment, but I'll just zero down on what you as a facilitator should focus on so as to assist the grade 1, 2, 3 learners, and also to help them pick up as they move towards grade 4. Now, when you talk of assessment, I had said earlier, it's a systematic process. where you have to determine capability of the learner in relating the knowledge, the skill, attitude, and values that they have learned in successfully performing a function. So what I can say, Mwalimu or the facilitator who is there, when it comes to formative assessment, this one is an ongoing process. We assess during the learning process of the learner. Apart from that one, there are some activities you're going to give the learner that they'll be able to post in their portfolio or in their scrapbook. I believe you've gone through several trainings. I wouldn't want to explain what a portfolio is now, but I'll just mention it briefly later. So the activities we give to the learners, like for example, I can just, I can come out and just draw. I ask learners to draw a fruit. Maybe I can ask them to draw a mango or to draw, yeah, like, let's for example, I've asked a learner to draw a mango, and this learner, I don't know, is it? I hope it's clear, and the learner draws a mango like this. You'll find this learner has drawn it in a rush. So the current assessments you're doing is not to assess how beautiful it looks, but it's to assess what is going on in this learner's mind. The way the drawing has been done, this is a learner who is doing things in a rush. This is a learner who needs to be contained. Otherwise, if you don't contain this learner well, you lose out on the learner. So when you're talking about assessment, in terms of formative assessment, learners will draw, learners will engage in project work, learners will engage in practical how they follow the steps to the end. There are those who will not want to follow it with their attitude as a facilitator. So what I can say is that when it comes to CBA assessment, number one, you have to look at the learning outcome. The learning outcome forms the basis of CBA because this is where we derive the content. During the many trainings you've attended, I believe you've been told that learning outcome has 3 areas. We have the verb, which is the first word, like draw, create, describe, actually develop the skill. Apart from the verb, in a learning outcome, we have the object. Object is the content. This way we're going to derive the content. And then lastly, in the learning outcome, we have the context. Why am I teaching this child this skill? So in the kind of assessment we shall give to our learners, you'll find that most of these questions that will come will be focusing on more of context. Like I'll give an example in the term 1 paper that we did. There's a question in one of the mathematics paper. It was a question 5, I think, in grade 2 mathematics exam, the last time the KPSA exam you did, where we're told John had 256 plates. He bought another 80 plates. How many plates do we have altogether? So here, there's something to do with context. There's something to do with the real life situation. There's something to do with the application. These are the kind of questions we need to encourage our learners to be given. So looking at this one, we find that whoever said that, he knew it was about A plus B, and that's it. But here you have to give a situation. From there, you look at the answer. Like for example, also in hygiene, when you talk about context, I can bring a shoe, a picture of a shoe, observe the picture. What can you see there? Or why is it important to put on shoes? Or Alima was encouraged to put on shoes. What was she trying to prevent? Or which external parasite was she trying to prevent? If you as a facilitator realize it was in the learning outcome and you did this activity practically, you even went ahead to role play, they'll understand actually wearing of shoes help in prevention of such of these external parasites like jiggers. So learning outcomes, I say, forms a basis of CBA. And then learning experience determines the assessment tasks the learners are going to be given. For example here, if I'm the item setter at the Kenya National Examination Council, or I'm the item setter at maybe the KPSA exams, step one, I'll look at the learning outcome. After checking the learning outcome, I'll have to ask myself, according to the Bloom's taxonomy, is it a learning outcome that helps me develop skill? Is it a learning outcome that helped me build on concept? Or is it a learning outcome that will promote creativity in the learners? Or is it a learning outcome that will help these learners actually synthesize or be more analytical? So after checking the learning outcome, you go to the learning experiences. Now, the activities which are outlined in the learning experiences, that's where we pick a task and set a test item. Those of us, though it will be handled tomorrow, who interacted with the NEC exam for grade 5, I wouldn't want to go there much, but you saw it was multiple choices. You realize that a child who did not engage in practical activity will not survive. So like, for example, in physical education, let me pick that one because most of our facilitators do not actually take our learners through physical education. Oh, wanasema tu it's time for PE, go to the field, go and play, take a ball and go and play. Yet nowadays, we need to give more focus to physical they were crossing the cut line and there was a rope ili ya kumaliza race. I believe you understand that because Kenya, sisi ni nchi ya wakimbiaji. So they were asking, which skill is that? Is it front chest? Is it diving? Is it what? A child who was taken through learning experiences well will be able to answer the question appropriately. So what am I saying here? Learning outcome forms the basis of CBA. CBA is competence-based assessment. And then learning experiences in CBC determines the tasks that will be given. So the kind of assessment you're going to bring on board will be determined by the learning experiences in the design. But I've said those are just suggested learning experiences. As a teacher, you can add more. So let us focus on those learning experiences because that's where we're going to pick our task and test the learners. Like for example, in mathematics, I think in grade 1, 2, and 3, we normally use the abacus in terms of addition, in terms of subtraction. But it's unfortunate there are several facilitators here in some of the schools I've worked to. When it comes to addition, they don't focus on number line, they don't focus on abacus. They always say addition is about just adding and counting sticks. We are losing out. If you're asked, add the following using the abacus, please do that. Because one day it will come to a future, because I said essence statements, a diagram might come showing number is to be subtracted. Maybe 238, take away 48. Which among the following abacus down there shows the correct way of subtracting? If you didn't take your learner through the learning process well in terms of experience, the learner will wonder what is supposed to be done, and they will not get it. They'll actually lose. So as a facilitator, as I'm moving towards talking about the exams that we did in term 1, please take time and read the essence statement in the design. From the essence statement, you'll be able to know the focus you'll have when the learner gets to grade 3. In grade 1, you'll be able to know what's your role as a teacher. Which kind of a learner should I have that we shall produce at the end of grade 3. Then come to the learning outcomes, deeply assess and design appropriate teaching and learning methodologies that you're going to use. Then lastly, it's about the resources. Which kind of resources am I going to use? Like in my teaching career, I don't remember any day I sent learners to print. I don't know what to print. I don't know what. When you send learners every other day to print things, you lack creativity as a facilitator. And you're just overburdening. That is work to the parent. But if I send maybe the child of grade 1, go and make a chewed stick with your parent, go find the right chewed stick, and they give them enough ample time so that the town dwellers can find their way in some bush and get a safe chewed stick. At least you are involving the parents well. So what am I saying? Learning experiences are quite critical here. Some of us will only focus on learning outcome. But what I'm saying, the tasks, the assessment tasks our learners are going to face will be picked from the learning experiences, especially the application questions. And then apart from that one, when you're carrying out an assessment, put in front, do you understand the core competence in each and every substrand? Before you walk in to teach, ask yourself, there is critical thinking and problem solving. Ask yourself, there is self-efficacy, meaning these learners have to practice and have that inner self-esteem in them. Now, when you focus on that one, it will lead you to design activities that will help develop this competence. Because when we come to assess, I'll give you a question that will determine if this child is competent or not. I can cite a question that was brought in environmental. It was question 6. That is, I think, our KPSA exam. It was a nice question, and I liked it. A mirror dash a shadow. And then the choices, we have forms, Lafingine does not form. So a child who just who has a mirror at home, atachanganyikiwa ni shadow ama ni image ama atachanganyikiwa. But a child mwenye umekaa naye shuleni, you've done quite a lot of activities with a mirror. They'll be able to understand that a mirror forms a shadow. So it will be an easy thing for the child. And that's why I was saying competence will be developed if you handle it practically.
Lumalas, George.
Yes, Ashford.
I think we lost Lumalas.
Sorry?
We lost the facilitator. He dropped out of the phone. Is the issue of the voice, eh?
I think he's been having some network issues wherever he is. And I think we'll try to get in touch with him. Now, in the meantime, I think we can have Mr. Geoffrey Lijodi just to take us through as we sort out with Mr. Edwin Lumalas. Mr. Lijodi, can you hear us?
I'm okay. You can hear me?
Yes, yes, I can hear you.
Thank you. I was trying to reach out to Lumalas. You can maybe take over and find out what is the challenge with him as I try to give my presentation.
Okay, okay.
Okay, thank you. Thank you again. My name is Geoffrey Lijodi, the National Sales and Marketing Manager, Moran Publishers. I'm a teacher by profession, and I want to appreciate KPSA for this initiative to capacity build our teachers in Kenya. And by doing this, I'm sure we are going to achieve more and more through the information that we are sharing with you through our facilitator, Lumalas. Lumalas, when you're ready, you can notify me.
Yeah, I'm okay.
Your volume is a bit low.
I think there was a technical issue, but I'm back. Are you able to hear me? Hello?
I think we are good. George, confirm if it is clear on your side.
Yeah, it is clear, but there's been a lot of interruptions of network. I don't know, Lumalas, if you can move to a place where there's steady network connectivity. Many of our participants are saying they're not getting you well because of breakups here and there as you present.
Oh, sorry. Still they're not getting me?
Yeah, I can get you now. You can go ahead now, you can get you.
Hello?
We can get you.
Okay, thank you. Sorry for the short sorry, I was talking about connecting learning experiences and the tasks to give to the learners before I disappeared. I'm sorry for that. I hope you're now able to get me well. Hello? I believe you're able to get me well.
Lumalas,
we can hear you, Mr.
Okay, thank you so much.
Clear now.
So I was talking about competencies, how to bring it out in a classroom situation. Hello? You able to get me? Hello?
Loud and clear, continue.
Yeah, I was trying to say that I was just trying to talk about how to connect competencies to the learning, to the assessment tasks. Sorry, I disappeared a bit, but I believe I'm now okay. And then I was talking about values. Values also should be incorporated in the assessment tasks. And lastly, something that you always forget as facilitators is PCIs and community service learning. As we are taking our learners through the learning process, take time and scan through the pertinent and contemporary issues that are being addressed in the design and ensure we engage our learners fully into them. Why? We are going also to test in that area. We are going to test the ability to embrace PCI. We are going to test they were either engaged in the community service learning and how best have they appreciated the element of community service learning. Now, the purpose of assessment, basically, you should understand as a facilitator, number one is for improvement. We know their weaknesses, their strength for the purpose of improvement. And you also as a facilitator, to be able to know if your approach is working or not. Secondly, the level of achievement. We assess as per the learning outcome and the learning experiences. And through that, we are able to investigate how best have the learning outcomes been achieved by the learners. And then lastly, another purpose of assessment is feedback. We have to assess the learners so that we give feedback. Earlier on, I said the consumers of the results, number one is the child. We need to give the child a positive feedback that ataelewa, discourage the element of exceeding expectation. And then the next person to be given feedback is the parent. I always see there's this rubric book that most of the schools have adopted, and mostly we always just ticking. You go to meet expectation, you tick. You go to approach expectation, you tick. You go to below expectation, you tick. Maybe that's what the child has achieved. But you see, a tick is actually like appreciating huyu mtoto amefika. So I'll rather let the parents understand the level of scores or grading. That is, exceeding expectation is a 4, meeting expectation is a 3, approaching expectation is a 2, and then below expectation is a 1. So that when you're filling the rubric book, instead of ticking, we should actually write either 1, 2, 3, or 4, so that the parent can be able to know, when I see a 1, my child needs support. And apart from that one, create more room where you'll have to address, or rather comment on the strength and the weakness of the learner, so that even the parent can assist, apart from you as the facilitator. Lastly is to the administration. What kind of information are you giving the administration? As a facilitator, I know we have the record of work covered. I know we have the rubric document, and as a school, you may have either another document as per the diverse system of your school, is that the tasks you are giving, 3 or 4 in the learning outcomes, and then we have an average for the strand. So that in a particular strand, you can either have a 3, a 4, or a 5. So that you are able also to feed proper information to the administration that they can understand. That actually hapa huyu mwanafunzi amepata 3, huyu mwanafunzi amepata 4, huyu mwanafunzi amepata 5. We do have these exams that are done by KPSA, and I like them because you might find like mathematics has got 20 questions, 25 or 30, depending with the level, from PP1 up to grade 5. Personally, I will advise this. For internal systems, go a notch higher and record the number of ticks this child has scored in a particular learning area. This one will total to full marks. That will help the director or the administrator of the school know the level of performance of their respective children. I've walked to many schools and I've found the director just have a document where imeandika tu hapo tu meet expectation, below expectation. That one is not communicating. At times when you're giving these tasks and it has 20 questions, just record those number of ticks. If there are 50 sums, if there are 20 questions, record these are 20. So that at the end of the day, we know the total score for the child. But I've said this one is for the internal systems within the school, so that even the administration, who is the consumer, or the director who is the consumer of the assessment you've given to the learner, can be able to have a clear direction of what the learners are performing in their schools. Then another purpose of assessment is for self-evaluation. A good assessment will actually be a positive motivation strategy to the child. A good assessment will also promote the relevant skills that we require in a learner. I want to comment about the IRE exam that was done by KPSA. Looking at the IRE exams, and take time, you may not be, maybe your school is doing CRE, but at times learn from your friend. Take time and look at that paper. The language used is so simple. The statements are short and clear, and then it has provided room for learners to select the correct answer out of 2 or 3 that are provided. That's a good assessment piece that we need to also encourage in our schools, because it is helping the learners to develop the skill of proper selection of choices. Because the direction we may take sit an exam which comprises multiple choices. Allow me not to share more about that multiple choices because it will be handled tomorrow, but that's the direction. So I've said, when it comes to self-evaluation, it's a motivation to the learner, and it will help the learner promote positive attitude and the relevant skills. And to you as the teacher, also what we call self-evaluation, measure the progress, and then identify areas that needs intervention and focused support. That's the basis of assessment. Then lastly, when you talk of assessment, there is this critical area of developing assessment tasks. Long were the days when we were having just name this one, which is this, what is this? No. Today we are moving to the direction where we have a task that the child will have to think through before attempting whatever they've been asked to do. And that's the you need to take. And for you to be safe as you are practicing in school internally, before we move to the summative assessment team, which are very good exams, by the way, and set tasks that are valuable to the child. What KPSA does, and I am happy about it, when they're setting tasks, they check at the learning experiences and then pick an activity and they set. Another secret which they are doing, they check at the indicators in the rubrics. Indicators will help us develop questions which are application questions or creation questions. So what KPSA normally do, they go to the rubrics, check through the indicators, pick an indicator, and then they set a task there. So what am I trying to communicate to you? As you're interacting with the design, as you're interacting with the relevant learning materials, don't also forget the rubric. Under the rubric, we have critical areas which are indicators. I know grade 1, 2, and 3, the kind of rubrics they are having are what we call holistic rubrics, where all the learning outcomes have been included in the rubrics. But when I talk of a better rubrics for application question, we call it analytic rubrics. You check through the indicators in the rubric and find out which activities are supposed to be done practically, or which activities, if a child completes a learning process, they'll be able to demonstrate, and even a parent will look and say, hey, I'm seeing a change in my child. So those indicators we're having in the rubrics are quite important, and they're quite critical because they help to develop the assessment tasks. Now, when you talk of formative, I think you've gone through quite a number of trainings, and you have a direction on how the task I'll talk about. That's the last item I'll talk about, and the end-term exam, which technically form. When you talk of summative exam, we have the written products, we have performance. Now, KPSA has made a deliberate effort to actually bring on board the written products and the performance tasks. And the discussion is also being made purposely for the grade 3s and also the grade 5s who are here currently moving to 6, to at least as an internal team to produce a standardized exam. All of us know very well, when you talk of standardized exam, these are test items that have been set as per a certain standard, moderated by a panel of members who understand what moderation is, to make the exam accommodative. Even that weak child, as they go through the questions, they are happy because there are some stories, there are some concepts, there are some diagrams. So the child is happy, much as maybe I'm quite challenged. The child is happy going through the tasks that have been given. That's what we call a moderated exam that accommodates everyone. And I'm happy KPSA is that also they give us what is quality. Now, allow me to just highlight a few of the questions that appeared in the KPSA exam. Like, for example, when it comes to creative arts, in creative arts, there was a question that I liked. Modeling soil is dashed in texture. So the child has to think through. When they were modeling, Mwalimu told them that the soil has to be soft, it has smaller particles, they understand the texture. So a child who did it practically will be so happy. And then there's the next question, color the tree correctly. This is what I was talking about, a friendly exam. Now this child is expected to color, there's a tree there, and the child is expected to color it. We have fruits, we have leaves, we have the stem. Is the child able to connect the outside world, the nature, the colors of the nature, and color this tree effectively? So it is developing creation in the child. Those are some of the questions we need to bring on board to the learners. I liked also another question in music, which I felt is also nice. And as we are testing our learners, think through that line. There was a song in music. There were two songs, by the way. One was saying, Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. That was song one. Song two, Row, Row, Row Your Boat. And then the question is, which song is sung faster? You have to think as you're rowing your boat. Will you move faster? Will you move slowly? So that's an application question. To you, it may look simple, but think of that child who is in maybe grade 1 or grade 2. Number one, I said this is a moderated question, which it's friendly. The child might answer it wrongly, but you see as the child is interacting with the question. Ataimba about twinkle, twinkle, little kwa mind yake, atafurahia. There'll be row your boat, atafurahia. That one is engaging all the learners. And then now they go to which song is sung faster. As we are testing our learners also, when it comes to competence curriculum, there's something called positive values. I know most of the test items you're going to bring on board will have diagrams, will have pictures. I know even in your class, in your classes, we shall have diagrams, we shall have pictures. Can we avoid putting pictures that shows maybe a child is falling down or a child is having an accident? I'll give an example here. And that's why I was happy with what KPSA did in the exams. And if you see, even if you see, no, I'll talk about it later. The books that we are talking about, Lijodi will mention it. We are focused on that also. For example, when I want to test a skill in the learner, that is critical thinking, I will not bring an idea that children were playing, alafu mmoja anakimbia kuchukua mpira kwa barabara to be knocked down by a vehicle. The picture I'll bring, there is a road, vehicles are just moving, and besides there, we have children playing football.
Edwin, we have lost you.
Maybe in grade I think 2 or 3, I think grade 1 or 2. There is a question about drowning, causes of drowning. Hello, you getting me? Hello? Hello?
Yeah, we
So
we
I was
lost you at
saying,
some point.
when, yes? Uh-huh.
I'm saying
I
that
can't
we
get
lost you
you.
at some point.
Uh-huh.
So maybe you may be forced
I
to go back a little bit for
that.
I'm saying,
From where I was talking about music.
yeah, maybe you can start from that as you.
From music, eh?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so fine, fine. Okay, let me take you back for those who didn't get me well. I was talking about music, and in music, I was citing a paper that was done, KPSA paper that was done in music. I think it was in either grade 1 or grade 2. With this one, there was some, there were 2 songs which were brought on board. One song was about Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. And then the next song was about Row, Row, Row Your Boat. Now, looking at these 2 songs, we had a friendly question here. Which song is sung faster? And then question 2, which song is sung slower? These are the kind of questions we need to give to our learners. A question that they will enjoy interacting with, even if they miss out and they get it wrong. The child has been involved. So I was saying such a question will develop their critical thinking level. They'll analyze the question, they'll reflect on how they are singing, they will think through the actions to take as they sing the song, and they'll be able to test, they'll be able either to answer if they should sing the song faster or slower. And then I was talking also about another one, which is hygiene and nutrition. There was a question number 8, which I really liked in our KPSA exam. It was about soap gel. In grade 2, learners are supposed to make a soap gel. And as a facilitator, you must ensure you take the learners through the learning experiences effectively to the end. Because at the end of the day, like when you saw the next exam, they were asking which is the last step, or which is the first step, or why do we do this in this step? So as a facilitator, take them through each step, give them reasons why you're doing all these steps, and then emphasize on elements of safety as they do this practical activity. So there was a question which came in terms of soap gel, and it read, soap gel is made from soap left over. So the child was to write either true or false. Soap gel is made from soap left over. A child who did this practically will know definitely it's a true fact that most of the soap gel, we make them from the soap leftovers, the smaller pieces. But it requires a child who has been exposed to practical activity. So such a question in our exam is so positive because it boosts the creativity of the learner. And then there was another one. I hope you're getting me. Using water that had been used before is called dash. Using water that had been used before is called dash. Children need to be taught that when they use water in maybe cleaning the class, washing their clothes, they need to reuse the water. So this question was just testing. As the facilitators were taking the learners through practical activity, how was this water made good use of after the practical activity? So a learner who went through the project effectively will answer the question well. Then apart from that one, these questions about draw and color ABCD should also be encouraged, because it now gives the child an opportunity to express their talents, to express their feelings, to be able also to give their mastery of a certain concept that was taught. So as you are doing the test items, as you are setting our learners, as you are examining or assessing our learners, it's always also important to put on board the test items that include drawing, coloring, matching, shaping, etc. Lastly, I want to talk about the grade 3 exam. We are all part and parcel of the grade 3 exams. That teacher or that facilitator in grade 1, that facilitator in grade 2, that facilitator in grade 3, you all have to come together as a combined effort to ensure that this learner perform to their best. One, I mentioned that we have written tasks, and then two, we do have integrated learning areas. Written tasks mainly will have the language and then mathematics. And of course, there will be the element of oral and issues to do with speaking, and we shall score that. But given that we have written tasks in only mathematics and language, doesn't mean we forget these other ones, because hygiene and nutrition is giving a base to home science in grade 4. Environmental activity is giving a base to science and technology, social studies, and also apart from that one, there is agriculture. When you talk of art, there's that continuity in grade 4. When you talk of music, there's that continuity also. So we need to continue giving our learners written tasks so that we can build their capacity. When it comes to e-learn, there will be these selected learning areas that will be tested there, where learners will be taken through practical activities, and these practical activities will be displayed clearly in their portfolios. Those facilitators who are engaging their learners in the practical activities and building up the portfolios from grade 1, 2, 3, there are some tasks, if you look at the theme that will be introduced this year, which you can quickly just pick them from our portfolios that we keep in class and just beef up the next one. We all know very well we have 3 types of portfolios. We have the class working portfolio, which is ongoing process from grade 1, 2, and 3. So the critical things we post there, you may find some of them are the ones that we shall just pick and use them in grade 3 assessment. We do also have the showcase portfolio. The showcase portfolio, this one we are displaying the best of the best in a class. After a task has been given either for an individual, for pair, class activity or group activity, learners will be involved in selecting the best and post it in the showcase portfolio. It will assist to encourage other learners to aspire to associate with the best. It will assist to promote the value of integrity and honesty in selecting the best. It will also assist I, as a director or as a teacher in the other class, to just work in my colleague's class, go through showcase portfolio, and be able to find out the best of the best that is being given there. Lastly, there is the assessment portfolio, which will be given by Kenya National Examination Council. Theme is going to be released very soon, and when it will be released, it's upon now the teachers, we've done this the 3rd year now, to actually take time in proper planning, take time in proper assembling, take time in involving the parents and administration in developing the same. I'm realizing I have a network challenge. Bwana Okumu, Hello, Bwana Okumu.
Yeah, I can hear you, Mr. Lumalas.
Are you able to get me clearly?
Yes. I can hear you now well.
Hello. So I was saying, when it comes to the current portfolio, I wouldn't talk much because the theme by either tomorrow or a day after tomorrow will be released. And from there, we shall now work together as a team to see how best to assist our children. But this is a purposeful collection of learners' work that shows learning in progress, that shows effort, and also achievement. There's something I want to comment about the portfolios that we shall do in assessment. I've realized most of this work is normally done by the tutor, not the learner. I will encourage you this time around this year to actually ensure that the learners actively participate in development of those portfolios. And as we develop the portfolios, there is also another challenge in the entries, what you put in the files or the portfolio you come up with. I've realized teachers only select the best and put there. But you need to understand, when we talk of assessment portfolio, we also need to have drafts. Draft, this is work that a learner does, and then you correct the learner and ask the learner to go do the work again and improve. Let the draft be there. Let the draft have some check signed by the teacher, and let the drafts be dated. So when I look at this portfolio, I should see it's a portfolio that has some interaction with the learner, not a portfolio which the teacher sat down and just piled pictures and whatever and put there. And then I'll encourage you to be also more creative. When I talk of creativity, do things differently. Let's keep away the files and think of something else you can use. Let's allow the children to give you suggestions on how best they can come up with some of the items so that you can build something which is so enriching. But then to encourage you, I think if you look at the workbooks that Moran has done, I think for grade 5, there's an area they've given where learners are given opportunity to do a portfolio. Learners are given opportunity on authentic, at least get a guidance of developing the portfolios for our learners. Last but not least, for you to perform well, you need to select relevant learning resources. And when you talk of learning resource, number one, we need to have the course book. When I talk of the course book, this is a course book which learners will be taken through activities to build their skills, to develop their attitudes, and to also boost their knowledge on a certain concept. I always say a course book, it's like the first tilting of land. You ni kulima shamba the first time. And so there's a lot of strain and digging and whatever as you move the course book. But then apart from that one, we also do have the workbooks. Workbooks are just books that contain spaces where learners will be able to write and reflect on what they've already learned. This is a book that can give a follow-up task at home. This is a book that even the parent can be encouraged. When you see you have some time at home with your learner, you can always say, Mulifika wapi in this topic, go to this page and try attempt this. Parent can also interact with the teachers to see how they'll assist in assessing, or learners will be encouraged to carry the work to school to be actually checked by the teacher or the facilitator. So what I was saying, workbook contain tasks that are enjoyable, and this task should be in color, full color picture, and should have enough space for the learners to fill in. So a good workbook should have what we call ownership. Let the learner work there. Let the learner own the book. Let the learner interact with it both in school and at home. Why am I saying this? These learners have been dealing with the course books and the exercise books. But when you change the approach, you now move aside the exercise book. You let the learners now fill in directly. They'll enjoy, they'll appreciate, they'll love your learning area. And even the parent will be so appreciative. So let's also embrace the workbook. Then lastly, we have these other resources that we use so as to boost learning. My facilitators, my co-facilitators, you need to know that you cannot fully implement CBC without proper choice and selection of resource materials. But I had said earlier, good resource materials are those materials that learners participate in developing them. If you as a facilitator allows learner to assist you develop these resources through improvisation, you are helping sharpen their creativity, you are helping them develop innovation, you are helping them have what we call ownership. So when you talk of resources, they need to be relevant, they need to be accurate. These resources also need to be conventional in terms of color, in terms of shape. Like when we talk of social studies, we have rivers which are in blue because those are conventionally acceptable colors. And then when you talk of resources, they need to be durable and safe for the learners to use, because we may have injuries if you just heap things in class every other day. So good resources, those resources that are developed by the facilitator together with the learners, and this should be tactile objects that the learners are able to interact with them easily. Your resources also, when you improvise, it will cut down on costs, and we shall have gotten rid of this element that we are overburdening the parent out there. Let's move towards improvisation. It will cut down the cost for both you as a facilitator, this institution you're representing, and to the parent. When you improvise also, it will help develop relevant skills and desirable attitude in the learners participating in it, improvising it. Hata wewe kama mwalimu, when you go into improvising, you'll go a notch higher. Your level of creativity will be higher. So where learners improvise, I've said there's creativity, there is innovation, there is teamwork, there is collaboration, and they will communicate as they improvise. Lastly, I've said there is the element of the books. I know we have had challenges in many schools in selecting the relevant books. KPSA as an organization has taken upon itself to sort out the issue of assessment. And they're really doing a good job in ensuring learners are given the relevant exams, that is in terms of assessment tasks, for midterm and end term. But where we are falling short of is where we are supposed to get the relevant books that will assist the learner develop well, and at the end of the day, be assessed effectively. So, can you approach relevant people to books that the pictures will not display, font size will not at the end of the day destroy their eyesight, books that are colorful, and by the way, in competence-based curriculum, the books must be in full color, not black and white. Even the grade 5 exam they did the other day, it was in full color. Why not give our learners such an opportunity? So lastly, let's take time, understand our learners, understand ourselves, and test our learners effectively, because effective assessment will help motivate the learner, will help give us direction you're taking, will help as a school also to know where intervention is required. And at the end of the day, you as a facilitator for grade 1, 2, and 3, you have a serious role to play to that child who is going to handle the final primary level exam at grade 6. We all know very well that at grade 6, they're going to sit an exam. NEC might wake up tomorrow morning as per what was tested the other time, and just tell these learners, grade them, and place them. In case placement is done and you didn't do justice to your learner, where will you fall? Learners, some of the learners to maintain in some of the public primary in our private schools, and these have already started planning to embrace grade 7. They will take them on board. You as a facilitator in grade 2, justice to our learners. Understand your learner, understand the design, understand the learning experiences, embrace best approaches in assisting this learner, and then lastly, proper assessment. I know out there are very many people who will be coming running to you with assessment. Avoid that. Your organization as KPSA is trying to organize something which is focused, an exam which does not have mistakes, an exam which is not destructive, because an exam, if it's not well set, will demoralize the learner, will be so destructive. So it has taken time to ensure you have all this. So it's your role now to embrace it fully. It's your role now to ensure you prepare your learners well so as to meet the needs of this. Hello? Hello? So you'll allow me to stop there and take back the time to George to continue with the program from there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Thank you so much, Mr. Edwin. We've enjoyed the presentation in as much as there were a bit of hiccups here and there for your internet connectivity at some point was not very stable, but all the same, we've got you clear, and we really appreciate you for the good highlights that you've given us during your presentation. Maybe before we go to the next presenter, we'll allow the participants to ask you questions. So you'll also be taking time to go through the chat column and also the Q&A icon to check if there are questions. But I've taken time to note down a few. So you kindly note down these, then answer them. Then also we may give about 4 or 5 other participants. I'll allow them to speak from this end. So as I'd said to the participants, you'll click, if you have a question that you want to ask Mr. Edwin Lumalas directly, you click the column for the icon for the raise hand, then I'll know that you want to ask a question, then I'll allow you to speak. Now, Mr. Lumalas, note down this question. Madam Caroline Kimunai is asking, is it a must that the learner achieves more?
Just a minute, let me work on my network, okay?
Are you there?
If we give him time to work on the network.
I think Mr. Lijoli then will give you time to, as he sorts out, maybe the questions and answers, he'll answer them at the end of the session so that we don't waste time. So Mr. Lijoli. As they sort out the issues of network.
Hello?
Hello, Edwin, are you back? Hello, Bwana Edwin. Seemingly we can't hear him, but in the course of his presentation, he's highlighted some things that maybe needs a little bit of explanation. Of course, we'll give him before the session ends, we'll give him time to respond to a few concerns. There are people who have raised concerns and questions. Now, ladies and gentlemen, allow me at this particular point to introduce to us the next speaker. In my introductory remark, I indicated that Kenya Private School Associations works closely with Moran Publishers as our material resource provider. They have a number of books that touches on mostly on issues of grade 1, grade 2, and grade 3. I was going through the comments about the chat, and a number of people are raising issues about where do we get the books. Like I can, Madam Peris Nyaga was asking from Mombasa, most of the time your books are missing teachers' guides in our stores and bookshops. So Mr. Lijodi, in your presentation, you'll help Madam Peris Nyaga, she's from Mombasa, she's asking that most of the books, especially the teachers' guides, are missing from bookstores and bookshops in Mombasa. There is Madam Jacinta Kimani was asking, do we have music books, movement books, and art and craft books for learners? So maybe Mr. Lijodi, you'll also respond to the same. Hababi Wesonga is also asking, are there books for creative arts? Madam Grace Ndirangu is asking, do you have the psychomotor textbooks? Teacher Winnie is asking, where are music / art and craft books purchased? David Parapara from Busia County, Malakisi is asking, where can we access the arts, craft, music, and physical learners books? Mr. Peter Muiso is asking, where are the music books purchased? So basically, Mr. Lijodi, I think from such concerns, I believe you can guess that most of our participants, the teachers of grade 1, 2, and 3, they are lacking most of these resource materials. So in your presentation, maybe you'll give a highlight on your branch network in terms of the distribution channels, so that because within our participation at this particular forum, teachers are represented from all the 47 counties. So maybe you'll give a highlight of how Moran Publishers are well distributed in terms of books, so that they can easily access some of these books. It's like most schools are missing them. However, I'm seeing Mr. Edwin Lumala. I don't know whether you are now connected so that you can respond to a few questions before we go to the next presenter. Mr. Edwin, are you now set? Bwana Lumalas, are you set to respond to a few questions? Seemingly, we can't get him. So allow me, ladies and gentlemen, to introduce Mr. Geoffrey Lijodi. I indicated earlier that he's the National Sales Marketing Manager for Moran Publishers. We work closely as KPSA, we work closely with Moran Publishers. Maybe he'll tell us more about the partnership between us, but he'll also give us a highlight on the books and other reference materials that we can use to aid our teaching program. So, Mr. Lijodi, karibu, please.
Asante sana, George, for the opportunity. I believe I'm loud and clear.
Yes, you are.
Thank you. I want to appreciate Kenya Private Schools Association for this great initiative where we are doing capacity building to our teachers. And as Moran Publishers, we are proud to be associated with you and with your teachers and your schools. And I will do a presentation briefly on promoting a reading culture at school and at home. because we've put so much effort on the issue of teaching and learning with the textbooks and with the revision materials that we have in CBC, but no one is talking about how do we cultivate a reading culture in this era of competency-based curriculum. We were told about the CBC vision, which is to have an engaged, empowered, and ethical citizen. So that's this will be achieved by providing every Kenyan learner with world-class standards in the skills and knowledge that they deserve and which they need in order to thrive in the 21st century. So these are skills that they need to use so that they can navigate in the 21st century, where most of the countries now have moved to the competency-based curriculum. Promoting a reading culture in schools. When we say what is reading, I can define reading as Fred Otike defines it, is the process involving cognitive processing of information in a written form. Reading culture, when we say what is a reading culture, is habitual and regular reading of books and information. When reading is repetitive, we say it is habitual. In a school setup or home where reading is valued, practiced, and programmed. So CBC is learner-centered. So we need to have this reading culture in our schools. So that means we need to value and practice and program reading so that it is habitual, it is natural. Without the opportunity to read widely, what is taught in the classroom cannot be reinforced. Consequently, learners cannot develop skills of locating, selecting, organizing, manipulating, evaluating, and processing information. How to support learners read independently? We have, as a company, we have tried to work with schools, and this is what we think has worked and is effective. Introduce DEAR. DEAR simply means drop everything and read. So for a school setup, you can agree that every day, for example, Monday to Friday, the first 30 minutes, maybe between 7:30 and 8, you drop everything in school. Everything stops, comes to a standstill, and the 30 minutes are spent in reading, just reading something that is available within the school setup. Number 2, as teachers, we need to be role models together with parents. So if you're a teacher and you showcase to the learners that you are good and you have the interest in reading, the learners will develop that through seeing. Next is explore different genres. We have to explore, give them different kind of materials so that they can read and have that global outlook. So let's give them access to these materials. This could be books on classics, integrity, values, books on science, book on essay, short stories, so that they have that wide exposure. Next, we have to create individual classroom libraries. How we are doing this as a company, we move to a school, we speak to parents. Like, for example, you have grade 2 students who are 100, 2-streamed or 3-streamed who are 100. Each parent gives 200 shillings. If they are 100, it is 20,000. 10,000 buys storybooks for English, the other 10 for Swahili. Then we buy 5 titles English, 5 titles in Kiswahili. Those are 10 titles. A parent only gave 200 shillings for one storybook, but the child will access 9 other titles at 200 shillings. So by doing that, we shall have classroom libraries. The books are left in the classroom. The learners will start reading them. And by doing that, they will develop the reading culture. Next is celebrate book-themed days. In your schools, you can have theme days. For literary day, you can have a literary day. You can spend a whole day reading storybooks. You can set that maybe once a month or once a term or once a year. You say there's a day they will come to school and there will be no teaching. They will just have a literary day. They just read the whole day, maybe storybooks, maybe books on fiction, maybe books on values, maybe books on science. And lastly, you have to engage parents so that they can support this. by buying the relevant books. So why read Moran Publishers storybooks, for example? Number one, to develop reading skills as they learn to read different words and structures. Why should they read Moran Publishers storybooks? Number two, to develop concentration through intensive reading. Storybooks and novels give opportunities for intensive reading, hence the teacher should recommend storybooks to the learners. Number three, to develop comprehension. Reading storybooks prepares learners and students to acquire comprehension skills which they apply in other learning areas and eventually in other areas that require reading comprehension. So the languages are very key, English and Kiswahili, because what they read and the skills they develop can be applied in the other learning areas, that is environmental, hygiene and nutrition, theory, etc. Number four, why our students should read storybooks is to build vocabulary. Every storybooks or reader, they will have new words which the learner piles up as his or her language reserve. Very important. Number five, reading develops language skills. Through reading, we develop not only vocabulary, but language structures, grammar, expressions, and other aspects. Number six, reading exposes, you'll excuse me for that, reading exposes us to different worldviews and contexts. The learner is exposed to the setting of the story, the thoughts and the ideologies of the writer. So this gives our learners, they can be in class, but they read about Masai Mara. They can be in class, they read about a story in Uganda. So we are taking them to that global view while they are in those local schools and classrooms. Number eight, develop language fluency. Learners obtain the resources they use to express themselves through storybooks and through reading. Number nine, reading is one of the safest and profitable form of entertainment. When they read storybooks, they get entertained. Through reading, the mind and brain develops as it is actively involved in predicting what is going to happen in the next plot. So this, you can see, is also transferred to the writing of composition and insha. They learn a lot from that and they are able to become good writers. Number 10, storybooks develop values. We've talked about the values in CBC. They form a basis for discussing some of the topics that are difficult to bring up, especially among the teens. Readers are stimuli to guidance and counseling. As a company, we have valued readers that that instill values in our learners. And in my next slide, I'm going to share with you. These storybooks that we have in our company. The next slide is there, and I'm going to share about our books. So these are the storybooks we are talking about. Our Kiswahili series is Hadithi Changamuka for grade 1, 2, and 3. And then our English, we have these integrity readers. Integrity readers are readers that instill values in our learners. Then we have this series we call the CBC themed readers. CBC themed readers are storybooks that instill values in our learners. And these are storybooks that we have developed that are on environmental. This one is on hygiene, nutrition, and this one is on skills and talents. And then we also have Bible stories again for grade 1, 2, and 3. So we are the only company that has storybooks that instill values in our children. Next, I'll talk about our course books for grade 1, 2, and 3. Our English series that is approved from grade 1 to grade 6 is Skills in English. Our mathematics course book is Enjoy Mathematics. Our Kiswahili is Study za Kiswahili. Our environmental that has been authored by Lumalas is Our World. Our literacy is Skills in English Literacy. Our hygiene and nutrition is Living Health. Our CRE course is Our Faith, that runs from grade 1 to grade 3. Lumalas talked about workbooks. We have workbooks that have taken care of all the learning outcomes. Specific learning outcomes need to be covered in a book that is used for extended work. That's why as a company, we don't author encyclopedias. We do workbooks because workbooks are comprehensive and are taking care of all the specific learning outcomes. An example here in the 2019 grade 3 monitoring learners progress assessment that they did, there are questions that were there on addition, on subtraction. And when you come to our grade 3 workbook, all that is well covered. I want to talk about question 11 in the MLP that spoke about multiplication. And if you look at our workbook, number 8, the example that is in our workbook, the learners were asked to complete the table below. So if they done this table and completed with the teacher, there's no way they would have failed this question that was in the MLP. There's number 16, early walked from the flower bed to the flag post, then to the staff room. This is about length, the strand 8. And you can see from our book, position and direction is well taken care of. And we've given a variety of examples that will have equipped our learners with enough skills to navigate through that question. Lastly, in the 2019 authentic task, cleaning a marketplace, in our workbook, we had even listed down the equipment that they would have used and which a teacher had an opportunity to improvise in advance. Our grade 4 workbooks are there, which we have released in the market. There are 3 volumes. Grade 1, 2, and 3 are also in volumes. And then lastly, but not least, we have released these supplementary materials to help learners in Kiswahili and English, where we have noticed through research, our learners are having a challenge and are developing negative attitude, especially for Kiswahili. So we have this Sauti na Mazoezi. So Sauti na Mazoezi is specifically dealing with sound activities in grade 1, Sauti na Mazoezi grade 2, Sauti na Mazoezi grade 3, specifically to deal with the sounds that are a challenge. The sister book in English is Steps to English Sounds, grade 1, grade 2, grade 3. And then for those taking CRE, we have Grow in Faith, Bible Stories activity book that has activities for each and every grade. Very interactive. So I want to encourage our teachers who have students or learners who have challenges and negative attitudes towards Kiswahili and English to look at this CBC compliant supplementary materials from Moran Publishers that we have just released. The question that I saw on teachers asking about, where can we get art and craft and music books? We are the only publisher who has published learners activity books in music and in art for grade 1, 2, and 3. KICD approved teachers' guides, and we understand teachers are not musically trained. We have some teachers who are not trained in teaching art. Therefore, we have challenges in having activities that are engaging, that can keep our learners occupied and develop the interest in these 2 learning areas. We know some schools, even teachers, have not listed these learning areas in the timetables. Therefore, we are the only company now providing you with learners activity books. The series is Beginning Music, grade 1, Beginning Music, grade 2, and grade 3. Then we have Beginning Art again for grade 1, grade 2, grade 3. So I believe I've answered the question that had been asked about where can we get the books. The books are in the bookshops. Kindly, you can recommend these books to your learners. Our grade 4 approved books are there. We were approved in science, music, agriculture, and science, and home science. But we have improved on our Kiswahili and English, and now the books are available in the market. Last but not least, my phone number is there, and you can save my phone number. The Airtel number is there, 0733 333 280, and my Safaricom number is there, 0722 59 11 29. So before I hand over to George, I would wish to showcase to you the breakthrough workbook books. Malas spoke about space and color, and that is what we've taken care of. We are giving these learners space. Right inside, we are giving these learners space to paste and to express themselves so that they can honor the books as we have been taken through with our facility today. So breakthrough series, grade 1, 2 volumes, grade 2, 2 volumes, grade 3, 2 volumes, grade 4, we have 3 volumes. Good for supplementary, for homework, for take home, with the uniqueness of having all the specific learning outcomes, having some work that they can take home. Thank you very much, George. I think I've been loud and clear. In case there's any other question to respond to, I will give it the attention it deserves. Asante sana.
Thank you so much, Mr. Lijodi, for the brief and precise presentation about the resource materials, the books, and where to access these books. I believe the teachers present now have been informed of where and how you can get the books. He's also given the contacts in case of any challenge. You can always contact him so that he can lead you to the nearest place you can access books from, whichever region you are coming from. Now, we are now in the plenary session, the session for questions and answers. We were at a point when we were to ask a few questions and get from the presenter of the day, Mr. Edwin. I don't know whether, Edwin, are you now available so that you respond to a few, answer a few questions from the participants? Now,
yes, I have a question. My question is transition. My question is yes. Transition between PP2 to grade 1 has a quite challenge. Since in grade 1, in PP2, there is only articulation of sound. When they come to grade 1, they are needed to read the story and answer the question. How can I go about that one? I'm a grade 1 teacher.
Thank you, madam. Maybe you would have introduced yourself before you ask the question so that we know the person we are responding to, but all the same, I believe Mr. Edwin, you are taking care of the question so that let the teachers ask their questions, then you will respond to their response at the questions at once. So Edwin, you are there?
Yeah, the network issues, but I'm back. Eh? Hello, you can get me?
Yes, hello? But you're still low. Raise your voice.
Are you able to get me now?
Yes, I'm saying, I'm allowing teachers now to ask questions, take keen interest in noting down the questions, then I'll give you time to respond to their responses. I believe you've gotten the first question from Madam.
Yes.
Okay, then I'm allowing the second person in the name of Madam Jacqueline Ntenya. Jacqueline Ntenya, you unmute and then you ask your question.
Yes.
Madam Jacqueline Ntenya. Then let's go to Pascal Ouma. Mr. Pascal Ouma, I can see you've raised your hand. You unmute and then you speak. Mr. Pascal.
I can't get it.
Hello, Pascal. Less than yes,
hello.
Pascal, we can now hear you.
Okay, I'm Birenge Franklin. Hello.
Sorry? We can hear you.
Oh, okay. We are facing some network problems. It's like it's raining in our place here. So there's a question we wanted to ask about the showcase portfolio. How does it look like? Kindly clarify on that.
It's okay, fine.
Okay, noted, Mwalimu.
Thank you.
Now let me give Madam Grace Ndirangu. Madam Grace Ndirangu. You
Hello, can I respond to that one?
Please. Then let's go to Madam Selfa Wasike. Selfa Wasike, I can see you've raised your hand. Kindly unmute and then you speak. Madam Selfa. Yes, now you speak. Madam Selfa, go ahead. Madam Selfa, kindly ask your question if you are there. Let's try then Mr. Mchanda David. Mchanda David. There are people who have raised hands. I thought you had questions. However, Mr. Edwin, there were people who had given us some questions through the question and answer column. There was this teacher, Madam Caroline Kimunai. She was asking, is it a must that the learner achieves more than values and competencies? That is one question. There was also another question from Mr. Roa of Mukombe Academy. They were asking, show us a sample of the portfolio. Maybe you can respond to those as we try to find out who can answer the asked questions directly. Mr. Edwin? Mr. Edwin, are you there? Seemingly he has connectivity problems, but we can assure the team that the group that will organize on how we can send you the slides online so that you can follow up the presentation of the day. At the same time, I wanted to say that at KPSA, we are still determined to engage our teachers and engage them in capacity building sessions similar to what we've had today. So tomorrow, we'll be having a similar session for teachers of grade 4 and grade 5. Now, allow me to welcome Mr. Ashford Gekunda to take us through the closing remarks. Mr. Ashford, kindly take over and take us through the closing remarks because I can see time is so much spent and we have to close the session. Ashford.
John.
Yes, I can hear you.
Hello.
Hello, I can hear you,
You
Mr.
can hear me?
Ashford. Yes,
Okay,
yes.
okay.
Ashford, you are again muted. I've allowed you to speak, but I can see you are still muted.
All right, George. I think now I am audible. You can see me now loud and clear?
Yes, you are now clear.
George?
Yes, I can hear you, Mr.
All
Ashford.
right.
Go ahead.
Let me start by okay. Appreciating KPSA for organizing for this kind of sessions. They are very enriching. Teacher Edwin, and are very tight to the hiccups of the network. I was able to pick a number of things, and I have benefited a lot from that. I also want to acknowledge Moran Publishers through Mr. Lijodi for accepting to Moran Publishers. George?
You are the one that is breaking. I can hear you, but at some point we lost you. But you can go ahead anyway.
Okay. I think today is a very unlucky day. Eh? We are having problems, all of us. Nevertheless, I was saying that
a challenge of
Moran Publishers have got
connectivity.
very good books. All of, I think. I was saying that Moran Publishers good books. I am sure Mr. Lito mentioned about the workbooks. Personally, I use their grade 5 workbooks, and they are very, very necessary when it comes to the testing, because at the end of every term, there is an assessment that follows what is envisioned in the CBC assessment. And I think we may have to do regional trainings with the smaller groups of teachers so that we can get into the nitty-gritty of these trainings. For the teachers who are in the meeting, we continue to encourage them to purpose to do one of the KPSA exams. If you are not able to book the main term exam in good time, you can purpose to do the end term exam, because once you do KPSA exams, you always get value for that. The world today is shifting, even the United Nations, and everybody is talking of the concept of value addition. Remember, even the CBC is seeking to change the whole experience about learning. Similarly, even in the world of services, like examinations, it is important to look for a printer or a service provider who does not just do business with you, but who is also happy to see you grow as a school. And that's why the KPSA came up with the concept of doing the having the assessment analyzed. We shared the analysis for standard 6, 7, and 8, and you're able to use the analysis to gauge yourself and see where your school would rank if you were to be ranked. And if you find that you are ranking below some schools, you can always call yourself to a meeting and ask yourself, what is it that school A is doing that I am not doing? Again, like we keep saying, CBC is a new thing. We are all in it positively, and the people will make a name in it. In CBC are the teachers and the schools that continue going for equippings, continue going for trainings. If you listen to Teacher Edwin, you realize there were things he was mentioning, and some of us were even asking to be shown samples of those things. I think Will take a long time to learn. It is not a one-off thing. Even one training alone may not be enough. So we ask that the judge through KPSA, you continue organizing for such so that we can all be equipped and we are going to march forward together. My name is Ashford Kikunda. I am the CEO, Examinations Hub, and we deal with over 50 types of printer exams and assessment for CBC, even the CBC rubric books, the scrapbooks, and all the resources that we need as facilitators in the CBC classes. I think for now, I can stop there.
Thank you so much, Bana Ashford. I think mine is just to thank everybody, starting with the facilitators of the day. Thank you so much, Bana Edwin. In as much as you had challenges with the network, we've learned so much from your presentation. I believe you send us your presentation so that we can also share it with the participants. Otherwise, thank you so much for availing yourself for this facilitation on such a platform. I also take this chance to thank Mr. Geoffrey Lijodi for the partnership that exists between KPSA and Moran. You've been so always very instrumental whenever we need your assistance here and there. Thank you so much for availing yourself personally for the session of today. Thank you so much, Bana Ashford, as well, and also my other colleagues, Godfrey Mwema, Martin Wairegi, Sylvia, Alice. Thank you so much for giving us the backup support that we need in such a kind of forum. I also take this chance to appreciate all the participants who have taken their time out of the busy schedules in schools at a time like this, just to be present and avail themselves for this kind of a capacity building and training session. Thank you so much, and may God bless you. Now, as I said earlier, tomorrow we have a session for grade 4 and grade 5 teachers. So you be our first ambassadors to inform the teachers of those classes that KPSA has organized for a CBC session training for grade 4 and grade 5 teachers. Of course, the link for the same meeting will be shared, and we'll use our normal channels to access it. But in any case, you may have any challenge, or your school may have any challenge with getting the link to the meeting, you can send me a text through my number 0729 864 083. I repeat, 0729 864 083. That is to get the link for tomorrow's meeting. Otherwise, I'll request again Mr. Ashford Kikunda kindly lead us in our closing prayers. Ashford, if you're there, kindly pray for us as we close the session of today.
Okay, let us bow our hands and give thanks. Our Heavenly Father, we bow before your presence this evening. We continue to acknowledge you because you are God of our lives. We want to pray, Lord, and thank you for the fellowship that we have had. Thank you for the sharpening that we have gotten even from our facilitator. We pray that, Lord, you continue expanding Moran Publishers. You continue expanding Edwin, so that it continues to bless teachers, and the teachers in return bless your children. We thank you, Lord, for KPSA. Thank you for sowing this thought in them that they need to equip their teachers, and they are doing that. We are aware that it is not an easy task, but you are giving us the resources, you are giving us the time, you are giving us the wisdom to plan, arrange, and teach. We pray for Mr. George, Mr. Martin, and the KPSA officials who are working around the clock sessions. We pray for the teachers who are joining us from all over the country. I know it takes a lot of commitment and sacrifice, for them to log in, spend their time, spend their bundles, and spend their energy launch so that they can better themselves and be able to do the ministry of serving your children. We pray for our schools that are represented by the teachers. Continue, Lord, giving us resources. Continue blessing us with the children, Lord, so that we are able to continue doing the ministry of your work. Praying for the remaining session tomorrow, Lord. Give us the way, bless us, Lord, even as we prepare to attend. Continue giving us energy and grace, Lord, to withstand the long hours of the session. I pray this, believing and trusting in the name of God.
Amen, amen, and amen. Thank you so much, Bwana Ashford, for the prayers. Thank you all for attending. Mine now is just to wish you bye, and may God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you, George, for the good job. Good coordination.